Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. A lot of us ask, how are we going to get that job? How are we going to be successful? How do you recruit into those incredible media and entertainment jobs? Well, I want to introduce you tonight to Michelle Nadon, who is a long-term, highly regarded recruitment specialist. She's provided career guidance in the Canadian media and entertainment sectors for over 2 decades. Her company, mediaintelligence.ca, links today's businesses with top talent through innovative recruitment models and cutting-edge career enrichment programs. So today we're going to be spending some time with Michelle, understanding exactly what she does, how she does it, and how we all can do it if we want to be successful. Michelle, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so very much. It's lovely to be here.
Well, my pleasure. So how do you even begin to think about a career these days? People are in this gig economy. They go from job to job to job, and you are a career development specialist, and you provide career guidance. Do you have any, easy 3 steps or 5 steps or 10 steps on career management?
Yeah, I do. Career management is best done in bite-sized chunks, I like to say. So the first goal is, or the first task rather, is to write up your goals. Brian, a lot of people have goals circling around their head all the time, but they don't really start to manifest unless you actually get your personal goals, your professional goals, your life goals, relationship goals. Get them all onto a list, and you will be amazed at how they start becoming reality.
I think the best description I've had of that in the past is that if it's not written down, it's a dream, and dreams are nice to have, but don't come true. But once you start writing it down, it becomes a goal.
Absolutely. They say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So writing down your goals, and I do mean a comprehensive list of your goals, is really step one for getting yourself organized around what you want to do in life. Then you need your marketing tools, like your resume, a bio, an email signature, voicemail, a real hidden little pearl in voicemail recordings, a LinkedIn profile, visuals, whatever other tools you might devise for yourself to help you maintain or establish and maintain a digital presence.
Okay, so let me ask you a question on that if I could.
Sure.
What about cover letters? I've noticed that a lot of people don't even bother writing cover letters anymore because it's sort of, it doesn't make sense. If you're sending in the mail, a resume, then a cover letter sort of made sense. But does a cover letter still make sense in today's world?
Well, cover letter, in my humble opinion, is absolutely mission critical. It's not as important for the more junior ranks, but certainly as you move into mid-management and senior management, your cover letter is an absolute must. There's a lot of controversy about that right now, but basically the idea for a cover letter is, I just say get it down, get it onto paper, get it onto a computer screen, just write your worst cover letter ever, so at least you have something to work on. Then you need to scrub it for a few very important things: the introduction and context, the qualifications that they're asking for. You might add a little bit in on your value adds, things that they don't know about you, but they might like to know about you that would enhance your possibilities for the job. And then last but not least, your business case at the end of the letter, how you sign off. It really is up to the individual to tell the employer why they should hire them as opposed to anyone else. So I think there's great value in cover letters. And as a recruiter, I read every single word, because if you're going into a company under my company name, I want to know absolutely everything about you, and a cover letter really helps me understand that.
I think that's great advice. 2 descriptions that I've had in the past from people like you is, one is that it's the icing on the cake. The resume is the cake, but cake doesn't taste all that great without the icing on it, and so you need the icing. And the second is that it's the elevator pitch. That if you get the opportunity to make the long pitch, then the resume is the long pitch. But if you only have a few seconds, the cover letter is that elevator pitch, and you don't get in to make many long pitches unless you've got a really good short elevator pitch.
That's right. And your cover letter, I want everyone to note, should be a shorter rather than a longer cover letter, because of course people's attention spans have changed these days and we're not attending as much when we're reading. So I always encourage people to draft up the cover letter, clean it up in the format in which it should be presented, like the qualifications, the value adds, in your pitch. And then you want to scrub it for every single extraneous word that you can. Like, don't use organized and attention to detail. They're largely the same thing, so get rid of one or the other. And then a final scrub for sociability and warmth. We've pretty much done now with formal cover letters, and we really do expect people to want to connect and be more warm and more real in their cover letters.
Excellent. And number three?
Number three, once you've done your goals, which is your positioning, and you've got your marketing tools, which is your packaging, then you are ready for job search. And most people just, go out there and they look for job postings and they apply willy-nilly, and there's not a lot of thought put into it. But for me, job search breaks into two distinct functions: job search research and then job search strategy. So I always do my research on the companies that I'm wanting to pursue business with. I look at their mandate. I look at the department that I might want to approach. I take a look on LinkedIn at who's in that department. So I inform myself really well. And then the strategy pieces. And this is what people aren't doing, and I wish that they would do. One needs to answer 4 very short questions for yourself when you're applying for a job. First question is, why would they hire you uniquely? The second question is, why would they hire you now? Well, the answer there is because it fits into my career plan, because I have one. The third question is, why this role, or why do I want to do this role in particular? You want to write down or articulate your reasons for wanting that job. And then most important, Brian, everybody, most important, you need to tie it into, why do you want to work with this company? So why you, why now, why this role, and why this company? If you can articulate that to a decision maker, they will pay attention to you.
I think that's really great advice. And my sense is the vast majority of people that I've interviewed and interacted with are always in sell mode. They want to get the job. They want to get the job offer. And they don't think about whether the job is right for them. And so I think that comes back to this idea of the role and company. And you've really got to ask that questions. I've had people that have been offered and taken jobs that they didn't really want, or they're not ready for, or it's bad for their career. And it really is. It's got to be a match. It's like any kind of a relationship. And if you don't think that the job is right for you, don't take it just to take it. It's got to be right for you.
Well, the first question I ask any candidate is, scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want this job? And their answer tells me everything. If they say a 5, they're obviously not that interested. If they say 7, my next question is, what would make it a 9 or a 10 for you? And if they say 10 out of 10, I'm like, green light, let's go with this candidacy and let's have a look at their qualifications.
Excellent advice. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with Michelle Nadon, who is a recruitment specialist, a career coach, a career progression specialist that helps us figure out our careers and where they're going to go. We're going to talk a little bit about how things have changed post the pandemic with all these terms of great resignation or quiet quitting and things like that. What does Michelle think about that and how it's impacted the world of employment today? Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm chatting tonight with Michelle Nadon. She is a recruitment specialist. She provides career guidance in the Canadian media and entertainment sector. Sounds like a really interesting sector to be involved in. Michelle, we've had quite an interesting couple of years with COVID-19, work from home, hybrid work, staying at home, and then a bunch of these smart consultants, I'm not sure if it's right or not, have been talking about things like the Great Resignation and quiet quitting. And I was at an interesting conference this week that said, and it was interesting. He says, if you're demanding that your employees work from the office 5 days a week, you got to be worried about whether you're going to be able to recruit good caliber people in the future, because you're going to cut off a lot of people that are caliber people. And then if your workers are only there 0 or 1 day a week, you got to ask yourself if you're getting the creativity and collaboration that you want. So we haven't worked out this whole work from home, and too much at the office may not get you the right people, and too little might not get you the right culture. So what do you think the big changes are that have occurred in the last couple of years, and particularly now, sort of post-COVID, though? I understand that COVID's still around and lots of people are still in the hospital, so we can't say it's over, but post the real big lockdowns of 2020 and 2021.
Yes, well, Brian, it's great that you bring that up, because largely, absolutely everything has changed. And we are in this bizarre position right now where we are straddling the traditional world of work that we all knew and loved and did with our eyes shut, and the new world of work, which is the hybrid model of work. So first of all, when you talk about quiet quitting, yes, there's an awful lot of it going on. And that's because people have benefited from the lockdown, and they have really taken the time to analyze or have a really serious look at what they actually want in life. And very often it differs from what they're already doing in life. So that's a major change that has transpired in the last couple of years. And I believe personally it's a good one, because it really leans towards much more so towards purpose than it does just the world of work. Now, employers have had to, frankly, bend over backwards to accommodate talent. It is a buyer's market. The talent are much more in control than the actual companies are right now, because there's such a need for talent. And the need, Brian, is technological. We need digitally savvy talent. We can't just have a skill set that's honed over, 10 years or so and hasn't broadened beyond its own scope. So hybrid work is important, flexible work is important, and purpose-driven work is very important to the workers. So then it becomes a question of how your company messages out to people and where they message out to the group that they want to woo into their company, and then how they treat those people once they're hired.
So some employers have an attitude of, number one, I'm spending a whole bunch of money on offices. Why do I want to have this money in offices if people aren't in there using them? Mm-hmm. Number two, if they're at home, I can't be sure they're actually working. They may be playing with their kids. They may be cleaning their house. They may be off doing other errands. They may be moonlighting in another job. Am I really sure that they're working? And then I think number three, a justifiable one. The first two I didn't think were very justifiable, but I think they are actually issues that people think about. The third one is, do I get the collaboration and teamwork and mentoring and advice and guidance that I need if people are at home? And so, there's some companies that are mandating 4 and 5 days in the office. If you think hybrid work is here to stay, how would you speak to a CEO of a company that is mandating his employees be in 5 days a week?
Well, really, this boils down at the end of the day to how strong the management team actually is, and how much business acumen they have, and how hip they are to the trends that are going on out there, and how much they understand what really is required to keep an employee happy these days. So in terms of physical footprints, yes, everyone is deciding to downsize where they can physically. So there's less in situ work being done. Performance is as performance does. You give your employees performance targets and they need to meet them. And if they don't, they're not meeting them. So, it really is up to the employee to sort of hold up their end of the bargain. And then when it comes to teamwork, that is really important. And this ties back into the other trend we were talking about earlier, which is purposeful work. People are looking for meaningful and purposeful work. So the challenge for the employer is to come up with ways to make that work meaningful and purposeful, also gainful for the employee, and throw in a little bit of fun. So culture is important, and they need to be minding their group cohesion, even over just over the internet. Group cohesion has to be there. So group events, buy-in from your employees to various corporate social responsibility aspects that your company may support, etc. All of those things are very attractive and make a sort of bridge between the old world of work and the new world that exists now.
So hybrid is here to stay, and you've got to adapt to it, and people want it, I guess, is what the bottom line is. But you also, when you read up to me, you said contract and part-time are trends. Really? So people are doing a lot more contract work and part-time work?
Oh, there's much more contract work than there ever was. I mean, even 5 years ago, I was concerned about what the gig economy was going to do for employment. Now it's basically contract after contract after contract. And many in the marketplace really do want part-time work because they're either raising a family and they're driven crazy with, other things to do outside of work, or they're transitioning themselves in their lives and they just don't want to do the 9-to-5 thing anymore. And they know that they don't have to do it. So they're asking for it. And largely employers are trying to find a way to provide it.
I see a lot of, I don't know whether it's AI or just websites or something like that appear to be sort of doing the interview process. What's happening that post-COVID? Is there a different way that resumes are reviewed and dealt with today?
Yes, artificial intelligence for the medium to large companies, mostly large companies, is being handled, at least the screening portion of it is being handled by what we call one-way interviews. So they are interested in your portfolio. They've had a look at your resume. They want to bring you on board. So they put you into an internet version of a one-way interview where you, the candidate, are alone with your screen and you are given a series of questions and you have timeframes with which to answer those questions. And based on how well you did with that process, you get invited to a personal interview. So it's really,
oh my God, so it's like ChatGPT is interviewing us.
A little bit. And it's very intimidating, especially for
Sounds like it.
Emerging talent who may not have the finesse to handle, a call like that one way without being prompted and whatnot. So I see it being kind of damaging to the new market entrants and the new grads. But everybody else, I just say, rise to the challenge. Video's here to stay, and you've got to learn to talk to a computer.
How'd you get into this business, Michelle? It sounds fascinating. I see a book, I think, on your credenza behind you. Is that a book that you've written, or?
Yes, about 4 years ago, I decided to put all of my knowledge around careers into Careers AF, New Rules, New Tools. And I did a second edition. The red one is the second edition. This is the one that has the post-pandemic best practices. How did I get into it, Brian? Let me tell you.
Hold it. Where can I get the book?
Oh, you can buy the book on Amazon.
Excellent. Okay. Careers AF by Michelle Nadon. And how'd you get into it?
I was 40 years old, ending a contract, no continuance on offer. It was a mat leave contract. I loved it. I would have stayed forever, but the contract was over and I was out. I like to use the term, I hit the curb as well as the ceiling at the same time. And I realized without further education, I couldn't pursue greater regulatory, which is what I was in at the time. And I was also too senior for most jobs at that point. I'd been a manager several times, so I needed a senior level job. So I decided, I can't be the only one out here with this problem. So I spoke with a number of different industry groups, and I found out that everybody was struggling with contract work. So I thought, why not create a media-specific recruiting entity that pays as much attention to the recruiting as it does to the wants and needs of the candidates themselves? And that is how Media Intelligence was born. And I haven't looked back. It's been almost 20 years.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That sounds like fun. And in your book, what do you cover in your book?
Absolutely everything is covered in this book, stem to stern. Goals, positioning statements, how you look, how to figure out what you want, how you're presenting to the marketplace, how to conduct an intelligent job search or a strategic job search. Every square inch of resumes, cover letters, and marketing tools are covered. We go in depth on how to find the hidden job market, because the hidden job market is out there and people really don't know how to negotiate it. I also talk about how to network, how to go from perfect strangers to known entities, and then going from known entities to, oh my God, I love you, you're hired. So the book really is comprehensive. It also talks about interview best practices, circa 2023. It talks very clearly about how to negotiate your salary and your deal points. That is something that most people do not do well at in interviews.
No, I
And
got to
then
read that. Send me that paragraph. Can I have that section, please?
I'll send you that chapter. Absolutely. Yes, negotiating is negotiating. Everyone approaches it like, oh, I'm afraid to undersell myself, or I'm afraid to ask for too much. Your salary is basically, it's a range. It's not a figure. It's a range. And the range goes from what you need vis-a-vis your years of experience to what you want. That is your range. So for new market entrants, I say give them a $5,000 split. Mid-market entrants, I say give them a $10,000 split. And at the executive level, give them a $20,000 to $30,000 split or range. And then the employer has some options, right? Whereas if you just offer one figure, you're locking yourself in and you're locking them in too.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Passing conversation. We're going to take a break and come back in 2 minutes with Michelle Nadon, a recruitment specialist and career advisor, particularly in the media and entertainment business. We're going to talk about this. I think what you called it was the hidden job market. We're going to talk about that and really sort of delve into what we need to do to be successful in our career. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Michelle Nadon. She is a recruitment specialist. She's a career guidance specialist, particularly in the Canadian media and entertainment sectors. And she's been in that industry for over 2 decades. She's written a book called Careers AF that's available on Amazon and elsewhere. And she's got some really good advice for us post the pandemic. Michelle, I wonder, what do you think the biggest mistakes are people make in their career, particularly now in 2023? What are the biggest mistakes we make?
The biggest mistake, bar none, for everyone is that you don't manage your career on an ongoing basis and you only take care of it when you're in trouble. That is a huge mistake. You should be actively working your career, building your marketing tools on a fairly, consistent basis, building your brand and your name, increasing your knowledge, getting to know your industry, networking with all the stakeholders. All of that stuff has got to happen in real time. It can't just happen when you've been given a pink slip.
Yeah, I think it's the attitude of it's easier to get a job when you've got a job. You should be always thinking about progressing your career. You got to network before you need to network. All those things about you got to be planning ahead. You got to be thinking ahead. You got to be working ahead rather than only doing things when it's necessary. And if you do it only when it's necessary, it's too late.
It's all a question of ongoing maintenance with your career, and networking is one of the biggest things. Another major mistake that people make in job search is they don't tend to do thorough background checks on companies. And that's how you end up in a company that you don't like for 2 years and you lose 2 years of your life in a company that isn't a good cultural fit, or they're not giving you the money that you need, etc. So you've got to research these companies and you've got to know and buy into who you're signing on to. And then the other mistake that people make regularly is that they don't invest in themselves. It is important to take lifelong learning seriously. Short, medium, or long-term educational programs, they're all over the internet. They're dirt cheap these days. These are what I call getting the small C credentials to add to your resume. So you need to be developing your own career all the time. You cannot rely on your employer to provide the professional development anymore. They don't. That is your responsibility.
Okay. Anything else? You mentioned something about failing to make our business case.
Yes. Your business case is the most important thing that I can teach anybody in this lifetime of mine. It is telling an employer why they should hire you, why they should hire you now, what role you want to play with this company, and most important, why you want to join this company in particular. That is what I call making a business case. You are telling them why they should hire you instead of throwing in the kitchen sink and hoping that they do the math.
I agree. I've had so many interviews with people where, you ask them questions, they've got, answers, but they've got no questions to ask you, and they haven't really thought through whether it makes sense from their standpoint because they're just in sell mode. And then sometimes after you made the offer, they turn to thinking about wondering whether they actually want the job, which is, it's almost too late by that time. They should have been thinking about that ahead of time.
Well, it is too late. And again, it is the candidate's responsibility to figure out if they want the job in the first place. Otherwise, everybody's wasting everybody's time, right? And another thing that people don't do, and they really ought to, because it shows so strongly, especially when it comes to one-way interviews. This is really important. You need to script and rehearse what you're going to say.
Yeah.
You can't just dive in there and, with a cursory glance at someone's website and you feel prepared. You are not prepared. You need to know what their mandate is. What are they making for who and why? You need to know a little bit of history about the company. You need to rehearse your answers. If they're looking for ABC skills, you need to have something at the ready to say about your ABC skills. And what you say is where you got the skill, what company, what environment, how long did you do it for? So it shows the depth and breadth of your expertise. And what was a good result out of getting that skill? That is what a recruiter wants to hear when they say, tell me about your editing capacities or your content creation capacities or your communications capacities. It's where'd you get it? How long did you do it? How well did you do it?
I got 2 pitches recently, and this may not be applicable in the media entertainment business. It may be only applicable for sort of senior finance or executive roles. But I got 2 pitches recently. One that I should be doing psychological testing prior to hiring someone, and it was a couple $1,000 to do a whole bunch of psychological testing of potential candidates. And the second one was background checks that were really very rigorous, ensuring that resumes were accurate, doing criminal checks and civil litigation checks and things like that. Is it smart for employers to be doing those types of things? Are employers doing those things? Should potential employees be ready for those types of things?
Every single person brings their own individual psychology to the workplace and to their life in general. I would suggest that we are all responsible for maintaining our health and wellness, especially from a psychological standpoint. But failing that, it would not be too much of a stretch to ask employers to focus on health and wellness for their employees. I think that would be a really good place for them to concentrate their energies. So rather than doing a bunch of psych screening, which you don't know who's done that psych screening, you don't know how this person's going to react to it. Indeed, is it ethical? I'm not sure. So I would encourage the employer to focus on health and wellness programs for their employees. And believe me, your employees will take you up on it. In terms of background checks, the internet is the internet. You can get a lot of background information via social media if you so choose, and most employers are actually doing that. Referencing is kind of like really old traditional stuff. Referencing doesn't help because they're only going to tell you good things about the person anyway. That's all they can tell you. So that's if they're even prepared for the call. So referencing I've always found to be largely a waste of time. I would rather spend that time drilling down on the candidate themselves and gauging in real time how they react and how they present, and are they consistent, and do they have a track record of delivering in their jobs. That to me is where the gold is with the individual.
You mentioned earlier the hidden job market. What's that?
The hidden job market is all the jobs that exist out there that employers are not posting any longer. I mean, in years past, we could always rely on job postings. We'd go looking first for job postings, right? Well, now, especially in media and entertainment, all the jobs are kind of communicated word of mouth, and employers themselves are there's such a need for talent that employers are charging their employees with going out to their networks to source talent for them. So that's a very important aspect to know about. Now, how do you find out about the hidden job search or the hidden job market? Well, it's actually it's very simple. You make a long list of 20 companies that you would like to join. You do your research on them. Get your little hidden gems. They got an Employer of the Year award this year. There's the corporate social responsibilities directed towards whatever charity, blah, blah, blah. You get a look on LinkedIn. You look at the department. You look at who's in it. And then you start contacting those people, and you do your outreach via email. Email is the best platform still for reaching people in real time with a real message. And you ask about jobs that are coming up in the organizations, not jobs that currently exist. When you as an employer are called and, Brian, got any jobs over at, your organization, you tend to feel like it's your responsibility. You got to get this person in. But if the person asks you, are there any jobs coming up in the communications area over the next 5 or 6 months? Would there be any chance that you give me a heads up if and when that occurs? Well, if you've got a decent relationship with that person, sure, they're going to do you the courtesy. And that's how you find out about the hidden jobs, is you ask about what's coming up. But you also inform yourself about what's new in that company. Because if the company is taking new directions or has new cash flow, they will be hiring, right? So you do your research, and then you network appropriately, and you will be able to find out about those jobs that are not posted.
You contact recruiters like you, or no, you spend most of your time working for the employers?
I suggest that candidates go mano a mano with hiring managers. Go directly to the hiring manager. If you have to go through AI and HR, then play by the rules and do that. But really, you could be doing your research on the company and the team and approaching them offline, and you stand a heck of a lot better chance of having a conversation with the real person that way than you ever will going into a stack of resumes on someone's desk.
I guess I would have thought media and entertainment is different than other businesses. I used to work for the Walt Disney Company at one point in time, and I was in the finance, strategic planning, real estate area, and so it was a little bit different there. But it was, the talent was hired very differently than the balance of the operation.
Well, almost everything has changed these days. And one has to, the poor candidates, it really is a trial for them. They have to be prepared for almost any scenario. And one of the most important ones, of course, is going through artificial intelligence these days. So everyone should remember that artificial intelligence reads in a Z format. Left to right drops down, left to right drops down. So your most important information goes at the top, and your second most important information goes at the bottom of any paragraph. Keywords from the job description need to be put into your resume and need to be put into the cover letter. It's not rocket science, and you don't want to stuff the letter with keywords. But if they're asking for customer relationship management as a skill, and you have customer service on your resume, well, then you just change it to customer relationship management so that AI recognizes the term. Yeah, so keywords are important. And and making sure that your document is locked in. It's not loaded with a bunch of, like, say you're working with a resume, you've had the same resume for 10 years and you've changed it 35 times in those 10 years. Well, all that gobbledygook is in the background of that resume, okay? Which is why I recommend every single year, at least every 2 years, you open up a brand new Word doc and you create a clean resume that's going to zip through AI.
Really fascinating. That's interesting. Michelle Nadon, this has been a really interesting conversation. We're going to take a final break and come back with some lessons learned in just 2 minutes with Michelle Nadon. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone. We're chatting tonight with Michelle Nadon. She is a recruitment specialist. She's a career guidance expert, particularly in the media and entertainment business, and she's been giving us a lot of really good advice. Michelle, before we get into your lessons learned to finish our show, I'm on 960 AM, which is great. I get 20,000 people listening to me every night. But what if I wanted to get onto CFRB or TVO or CTV or CBC? How would I do that?
Well, it all depends on how you are managing your own messaging in your professional community. You need to be able to articulate what it is that you're looking for. You need to have the social equity, people you can reach out to have those conversations, to get your name suggested for the next spot at that, desired employer. It's all about your pre-planning, the research that you do on the company, how well informed you are, and then how strongly you present. So you've got to have a good track record. You've got to be scripted and rehearsed in what you say so your message gets across clearly. And then you also need to be in charge of the ever famous or possibly infamous call to action. The next steps are always up to you to manage, and you need to be on top of what are the next steps I'm going to take to get in front of this executive team or management team appropriately at the right times and for the right reasons. That is the strategy portion of job search.
This has been a great conversation. Thank you. What are your lessons learned? What's the final comment you want to make?
Greatest lesson is people pay attention to your careers. At the end of the day, it's not just a job. It's about self-actualization. And it's about how many years do you want to spend throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks, or do you want to roll up your sleeves, write up your goals, take a really good look at your marketing tools, and get busy on a strategic job search that is actually going to make you money, but it's going to make you happy, and it's going to help you feel fulfilled in life. That is what career management really ought to be all about.
Michelle Nadon, thank you so much for joining us tonight and telling us a lot about planning out our job search, making sure that we've got goals, doing the networking, making sure that you've got a cover letter, getting ready for that job interview, and then also making sure that we understand whether we want that job and doing research on the company itself. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good night.